Hey, what's up, my friend? Chris Lim here. Now today we're gonna look at bass compression. I know that this is something that lots of people struggle with. That's why I'm making this video. And I wanna make the video as simple as possible by showing you simple bass compression settings that you need to know about so you can bring your bass sound to the next level. So let's jump in our session and check this out. Okay, so now let's have a quick listen to the recording we're gonna work on today. So that's the bass sound. It's a good bass recording. So it is quite of punchy and a bit aggressive and edgy as far as the attack of the bass performance goes, and I'm gonna fix that with compression. Why compressing a bass sound? First of all, to even out the dynamics, especially when working with an electric or acoustic bass recording where the player is not a robot, you know, so the dynamics are not gonna be like entirely even. Now, depending on the type of music I'm mixing, even out the bass dynamics is something that I'm gonna reach for, you know. When it comes to, for example, like a jazz production, that might be different. The use of compression might not be as suitable compared to a pop, a folk, or a rock song, you know. Also, compression can help to enhance the sense of groove of a bass performance and also to add a bit more character to the tone of the bass. You know, I can use compression to do that also. So first, what I'm gonna do here on this bass, I'm gonna even out the dynamics so I get a more stable bass performance as far as the dynamics go, so I can hear like all the notes a bit more equally as far as the level goes. So this way I'm gonna get a more even bass sound. So I'm gonna go with my starting point as far as the settings goes on this compressor. So ratio for bass, I usually keep it at a minimum of 4:1 and even higher if I need to. Attack, I'm going to leave that to 10 milliseconds, so a kind of a slow to medium attack time. Release time at 100 milliseconds or so. So this is basically a kind of a medium release time. Now, this is only my starting point. I'm going to play around with those settings, especially the attack and release time, because this is where the heart of a compressor resides, in my opinion. Okay, so let's have a quick listen. I'm gonna bring down the threshold so I can start to get some gain reduction. And you can actually see it straight on this compressor. You see what's happening. Okay, so now the question I'm gonna ask myself, what do I want to do with this bass sound? Okay, I want to control the dynamics, that's for sure, that's one thing. But I also want to control the character of that bass sound. Now, the bass was recorded with a pick from what I can hear, so I'm gonna smooth up the transients. Now, right now, there's lots of attack on that bass sound, and I want to smooth that up. So if I want to smooth up a bass sound, I need to bring down the attack time. So this way, the initial transients of the bass sound will be affected compared to a slow attack. So I'm gonna start by bringing the attack time very fast and just pay attention to the sound, listen, and also have a look at the graphics on top. I'm gonna bring it very slow. Now it compresses a bit less, because the compressor takes a bit more time to get to full compression once the signal reaches the threshold point. Okay, so this is what the attack time does. So that's why when I keep the attack time slower, I'm gonna keep more transients in a way, and my bass sound is gonna sound even more punchier. So if I need to add more punch to a bass sound, let's say I'm mixing a bass sound that was recorded with a bass player playing with his fingers, which is usually the case, let's face it. So I get like a very smoother type of sound, and I need a bit more of punch out of that bass sound. I'm gonna aim towards a slower attack, so I can get a bit more punch out of that bass sound. But in this case, I'm gonna bring that attack time a bit faster, so I can control more of the initial transients of that bass. Okay, now as far as the release time goes, now this will play around the sustain of that bass. So I'm gonna start by bringing that release time very fast. And you can see it. You can see it on those long notes. I'm getting lots of natural sustain. So since the release time is very fast, the compressor will let go quick, so it's going to keep that natural sustain. I want to have a bit more control over that sustain, okay? So I'm going to slow down that release time so the compressor is going to take a bit more of its time before letting go, okay? If I bring it very slow. Now again, this is not working, so I'm going to go in between. So I think this is a good compromise. It's still pretty fast release, but fast enough so I can keep a good natural sustain out of that bass with a bit of control. By using only one compressor, this is the approach I use, okay? So I go at my starting point, bring down the threshold, I get a good amount of gain reduction, see how it goes, just so I can hear compression, and then I can rebalance the threshold to taste. So I think that's gonna work pretty well. All right, so what you need to pay attention to, attack and release. You wanna get more smoothness out of the sound, bring the attack time faster. You wanna get more punch out of the bass sound, do the opposite. Bring the attack time slower to control the sustain of the sound, play around with the release time. And in my case, that will go according to the tempo of the song and the type of bass performance or bass line, and that will determine the amount of release time I'm gonna go with. So on a slower tempo, I can even have a slower release time. So it depends on what I'm working on. So just pay attention to that, play around with the release time and listen and make sure you don't hear pumping. Make sure it stays natural, and you're going to be good to go. Now, another way we can use bass compression is by working with two compressors to share the load. So let's check it out. Now, before we move on, I have a free gift for you, The Fundamentals of Compression, which is my free guide talking about compression, which can be a confusing topic for a lot, and this guide will help you to understand compression and will help you to work with compression in your mixes. So this way, you'll have a good understanding of what compression is all about. Again, entirely free. The link is down below. Okay, now let's use two compressors to mix this bass. All right, so you can use any compressors you want. In my case, what I'm going to do here is to use the 1176 well-known compressor that I actually made a video on. If you want to watch it, it's a full walkthrough on how to use and mix with an 1176 compressor. I'm going to leave the link down below if you want to go watch it. Now, in a nutshell, the 1176 is a very fast compressor. So the attack time, whether it's a slow attack or you set it up to fast, it's still going to be a fast attack time. So this is going to be perfect to smooth up this bass sound, which again, it's a performance that was played and recorded by using a pick instead of fingers. Okay, so I kind of get that pick sound and edginess out of that bass sound that I want to smooth up. And then I'm going to use a second compressor just to add a bit more character, a bit more tone, level up the bass sound also. And I'm going to use the LA2A, which is also pretty used to mix bass, especially on slow tempo songs. Okay, so if you're using only one compressor, maybe the LA2A on a slow tempo song might do the trick. And if you don't know about the LA2A, I also made a full video, full walkthrough on how you can work with an LA2A in your mixes. All right, so let's bypass the LA2A for now and work on the 1176. All right. So I have enough input for good gain reduction. Now I don't want to add too much gain reduction. My goal is still to keep compression like transparent, on that bass sound. And since I'm sharing the load between two compressors, I want to pay attention to the amount of compression that I'm getting from each compressor. So 4:1 ratio. So attack time is pretty fast. release time also, you know, I'm looking at the meter, I'm listening. I think that feels pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna add this second compressor. It's gonna bring a bit more life and character to that bass sound. And this time around, the LA2A is a slower compressor compared to the 1176. And when I use two compressors to mix a bass sound, I like to use different types of compressors also. That has different character, you know. So a fast, a slow, I think that is gonna do the trick. So let's have a listen. Nice. So way more even as far as dynamics goes, smoother. Okay, so I was able to control the initial transients, the edginess that I got from the attack of the bass, and I have like good tone also that the LA2A was able to give me. And so this is a very good bass sound. Okay, so this is how I can work with two compressors mixing a bass. Let me show you one plugin that is actually pretty cool to work with. Okay, so instead of using the 1176 and LA2A, I can use a free plugin called Compressor, which will give you access to two different compressors that can be a bit different also in style of compressor. So we have access to a VCA, a FET compressor, and a Nopto compressor. So on my top one, I'm using a FET compressor, which is the style of compressor the 1176 is, and I'm doing the same type of approach, fast attack time, and a kind of a medium release time. Now, if I bring the opto at the bottom, I made it a 10 milliseconds of attack time, around 60 milliseconds of release. I think that works pretty well here. That's cool. So it's a pretty cool plugin to work with. I'm going to leave the link below, again, entirely free. Now, if you want to learn about a very nice mixing technique that I actually took from Jakir King to balance kick and bass, you need to watch this video. And let me know down below if you want me to do more videos like this one covering other types of instruments. Leave all your comments and questions below. Until next time, take care and see you.